You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynne Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Wednesday, 6th of August 2014. Ebola. Several Britons across the UK quarantined at home after returning from West Africa. Golden Devil customised Saudi Range Rover bedazzles London. Mosque's assistant teacher jailed for cruelty towards 7-year-old boy. Greece. 7,500 doctors have left in 6 years. Friday. Sermon at Italian mosque. Kill the Jews to the very last one. And France. Violence erupts amongst migrants in Calais. Captured Hamas combat manual reveals use of human shields exploiting IDF rules of engagement. Iraq's jihadis have vowed to wipe out the Yazidis. Afghan soldier attack on UK army camp kills US general. Thought for the day, myth or reality. And finally, 2 for 1 day Wednesday, including the Darwin Awards. UK news. Ebola. Several Britons across the UK quarantined at home after returning from West Africa. Doctors say the individuals are voluntarily confined at home after returning from an Ebola-affected country in West Africa. Several Britons are quarantined across the UK with suspected Ebola, public health officials admitted on Tuesday. The revelation comes as a Welsh national who fears they may have contracted the deadly Ebola virus while abroad has returned home and placed themselves in voluntary quarantine. The potential victim is understood to be living in Cardiff and is being closely monitored, health officials said. World at 8. They say travel broadens one's horizons, but I don't think this is always the case. Golden Devil customised Saudi Range Rover bedazzles London. London's streets reached a new level of luxury as a Saudi-owned gold Range Rover with 666 number plate joined other Arab supercars that continue to roam the capital's roads, the Daily Mail reported. The car was shipped from Saudi Arabia and has been spotted parked outside London's pricey Wellesley Hotel in Knightsbridge. World at 8, and it was pictured in the Daily Mail today, along with all the veiled women spending millions of pounds of oil money in our capital. Not a very edifying sight in reality. Very bad taste. Mosque assistant teacher jailed for cruelty towards 7-year-old boy. An assistant teacher at a mosque has been jailed after a judge heard he chastised a young boy over his reading, leaving him with bruises. Arfak Hussain admitted a charge of cruelty after he used his knuckles to wrap the 7-year-old around the knee. Leeds Crown Court heard on Friday that the offence came to light in December 2012 when another boy told a school teacher he did not want to do PE because his legs were sore. Prosecutor Tony Kelbrick said social services spoke to that boy and to the 7-year-old who told them he had been hit at the mosque in Whitaker Street, Batley, by his teacher. A medical examination found an unusual group of 6 blue-coloured bruises on the side of his right knee, as well as some older brown bruises on his left knee and thigh. A paediatrician said they did not appear to fit in with accidental bruising. When the boy was questioned, he said his teacher at the mosque used his knuckles to hit him if he made mistakes. World at 8, don't care and won't care. European news. Greece. 7,500 doctors have left in 6 years. During the last 6 years, because of the economic crisis, a large number of Greek doctors have migrated to Europe and other continents, as Greek Reporter website writes. Figures of the largest medical association of Greece, the Athens Medical Association, show that more than 7,340 doctors have left Greece during the past 6 years because of serious problems in the Greek healthcare system. From 2010 onwards, the number of doctors who leave Greece since seeking a better job abroad is constantly increasing. It's estimated that 5,406 physicians have migrated abroad since 2011. The United Kingdom, Germany and Sweden are the most popular destinations amongst Greek doctors who have decided to leave Greece. World at 8. Well, as long as they speak it English, I don't care, but it does seem a shame we're replacing our own trained doctors with foreign ones. Friday's sermon at Italian mosque kill the Jews to the very last one. In a Friday sermon in northern Italy, Sheikh Abdel al-Bar al-Rawadi prayed to Allah to count the Jews one by one and kill them to the very last one. Al-Rawadi, leading the prayers at Al-Rama Mosque in San Donna Piave, the province of Venice, called upon Allah to turn their food to poison and make the air they breathe blazing hot. The sermon was posted on the internet on July 29, 2014. World date. I think this makes Islam's stance on Jews plain even to the thickets amongst us. France, violence erupts amongst migrants in Calais. Dozens were hurt after violent clashes broke out in Calais between hundreds of African migrants desperate to get across the Channel to the UK. It comes after extra riot police have been drafted in to boost security amid a growing crisis in the town. The number of migrants in Calais has grown by some 50% in a few months, local authorities said. Veronique Devise from the Secours Catholique charity said the situation had deteriorated and there was now a bit of an explosive atmosphere. The migrants are so desperate, sometimes they want to take a lorry by force and head off to England, she said. World date. Stop feeding the buggers, Veronique. You're only making it worse for us in the UK. World news. Captured Hamas combat manual reveals use of human shields exploiting IDF rules of engagement. IDF forces in the Gaza Strip found a Hamas manual on urban warfare, which belonged to the Shujaya brigade of Hamas military wing, the Al-Qassam brigades. The manual explains how the civilian population can be used against IDF forces and reveals that Hamas knows the IDF is committed to minimising harm to civilians. This Hamas urban warfare manual exposes two truths. One, the terror group knows full well that the IDF will do what it can to limit civilian casualties, and two, the terror group exploits these efforts by using civilians as human shields against advancing IDF forces. The manual goes on to explain that the presence of civilians are pockets of resistance that cause three major problems for advancing troops. Iraq's jihadis have vowed to wipe out the Yazidis. The arrival of the self-styled Islamic State IS in the northern Iraqi town of Sinjar over the weekend sent the native religious minority fleeing. Yazidis, labelled by IS, formerly the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIS, devil worshippers, have a long history of persecution. 40 Yazidi children were reported killed and reports of forced conversions and murders have now emerged. A Yazidi parliamentarian fleeing northern Iraq told the Washington Post, "In our history we have suffered 72 massacres. We are worried Sinjar could be a 73rd. The Sinjar area near the border with Syria is strategically important for IS, just 50 miles from Mosul. The United Nations has said close to 200,000 have fled the area, calling it a humanitarian tragedy. Who are the Yazidis? Yazidis, sometimes spelt Yazidis, belongs to an ethno-religious group which predates Islam and has roots in Zoroastrianism, and monotheistic religion that developed in ancient Persia around 1500 BC. Yazidis have been described as a Kurdish heterodox group, meaning they're ethnic Kurds, but outside the mainstream of the community and culture. Over time they have incorporated aspects of Christianity, Islam and Judaism into their beliefs. Much of the faith remains shrouded in mystery, with outsiders not allowed to convert and believers not willing to share details of their rituals. Afghan soldier attack on UK army camp kills US general. A US Major General has been killed in an attack by a man in Afghan military uniform at a British-run military academy near Kabul, US officials say. Major General Harold Green is the highest-ranking US military official to have been killed since US-led combat operations in Afghanistan began. At least 15 soldiers, 2 British, several Americans and generals from Germany and Afghanistan were wounded. Officials said the Afghan soldier who opened fire had been shot dead. General Green was the Deputy Commanding General for the Combined Security Transition Command, involved in preparations for the withdrawal of coalition troops at the end of the year. Correspondents say the attack raises new doubts about NATO's ability to train Afghan forces as Western countries gradually withdraw. Thought for the day: myth or reality? Well, you may say it's all a question of who is questioning it or how someone else sees it, but there comes a time when reality in all its glory sheds a very large light on a myth and in doing so destroys that particular myth forever. Another question is that when this light shines even glaringly obviously, who actually sees it and acts by it, or moreover who gives it a thought? Well, we nationalists do, because however we may differ from each other in our vices and virtues, our perceptions of what are wrong and right are not entirely personal ones, and if a light is bright enough and the truth has been ignored enough, then we will act. The particular myths I'm talking about are, of course, immigration and racism. One, of course, leads to the other without fail. Even amongst the immigrants themselves, they're building up gangs in this country, let alone on the borders of France and Calais, where apparently the rival groups from Sudan and Eritrea have come down to establishing ghettos on French soil to enable them to reach the UK quicker. Now, in a civilised world this would be verboten and indeed would not happen. Why? Because huge number of illegal third worlders would not be allowed out of their countries, let alone to Europe and the UK, without actions being taken. At no time in this world's history has such a massive immigration occurred over such long distances, and now it has reached the stage of being almost laughable with sheer disbelief that it is happening. Apart from the obvious myth that immigration per se is not only good for us but needed, and the reality of that being that for the last 30 years all immigrants coming here are just heaping coals of various magnitudes on our heads, we were full up in the 1970s if you allow for the subsequent birth rates during the years since. You see, amidst all the liberal and nice sentiments of not blaming the immigrants but the government, you still have to ask yourself why their birth rates were not checked and factored in for the stats. If a young male Pakistani came here alone in 1970, you can bet your bottom dollar he is now the proud father of around 5 Pakistanis who have all since produced their families and who cash in on the benefits, health and education services that we once only offered to our own. And this is just one man. So pardon me if, whilst blaming of course subsequent governments for their short-sightedness, partial blame must be put onto the migrants because they keep on coming in. And now many view it as their right to colonise this small island without being stopped. Vis-a-vis the disgusting behaviour in France, which has pushed the French, never our friends, to give free passage to these Africans and Arabs to a country which has no ties with them at all. And of course racism will continue to grow and grow despite the ridiculous media attacks on people like Clarkson, and it points to a growing body of thought that if one wants to laugh at old racist jokes or poke fun at foreigners, so be it. If they were not here, they wouldn't know, would they? And moreover, most Brits wouldn't need to get rid of their racist thoughts under the banner of humour. Now, eeny meeny miny mo, catch a nigger by his toe, if he hollers let him go, eeny meeny miny mo. There is a nursery rhyme I grew up with, and which didn't point me in the direction of being an ethnic nationalist until I started to see more coloured faces in my hometowns than faces like mine. Get over it. One evil starts another evil, in my book. Of course we had the liberal elite who couldn't do without their Polish nannies and cleaning ladies, but then in the old days they and I had English ones. The lower middles with their takeaways have encouraged thousands of new immigrants to leap onto the catering bandwagon with disastrous results for our farmers and supermarkets. How can a people from a land which doesn't boast hygienic or even good cuisine suddenly acquire standards when they set foot in this country? It simply doesn't happen. The debacle in Calais was between rival tribes and yup, they used knives. And what will stop them using knives when they're over here? Our British plods who are too scared of them and losing their pensions to actually stop and search or even stop and deport these people? When will the reality overtake the myth of immigration? Even where I live we're sporting a growing African ghetto and all that entails, which I'm afraid to say is disease and importation of diseases. Third worlders have been born into a certain society. That society has different morals, different cultures and a different socio-economic needs. They do not adapt. They take what is on offer, which as you can guess is much more than our elderly ever get, with the added bonus of future free education and large groups of their peers who are paid to help and aid just their own. So it is a win-win situation for even the illegals coming over. They will slither into their own racial pots and breed and take, not necessarily in that order. The reality has already overtaken the myth of the cosmopolitan society and the few educated and civilised foreigners being allowed in on a quota. This, in fact, has never happened and now never will. It is open season in the UK for migrants of any sort, colour, creed or religion, tribe or class, and if they don't come in their huge numbers enough, there are plenty of Brits in this country only too willing to adopt, marry and import more third worlders into England. Race mixing doesn't encourage diversity, nor is it about tolerance or racism. It's about depriving the individual of culture and pride in who they are, be it black, Asian, American or European. If we continue as we are, in a few hundred years we will all be a blend of the same murky flesh, no individuality or colour, no pride or heritage. Tell me then that race mixing does no harm. When all that's left of your culture is a distant memory, when people in films have put on white or black makeup for historical accuracy, when children talk about how their great-great-grandfather was white in some superfluous attempt at remembering their past. But it will be forgotten. Surely even the leftists and Jews who advocate this must realise that this would be a terrible world to live in, one with the destruction of human culture, because if culture goes, that also means some societies, which base their entire existence on the continuance of their race, will be wiped out, indiscriminately. Ancient tribes to royal families, and what is left of your precious cultural diversity when we have no culture? To those who advocate multiculturalism and the myth of immigration, why don't you follow your own advice? Celebrate diversity and don't race mix. We are the only small country in the world that allows migrants to obtain state legal aid to defend the usually indefensible, whilst our own are lucky to have a rather dim CPS provided legal guy who doesn't really care because he gets more money from the foreigners. We are the only country in the world who helps and funds foreign mothers give birth who outnumber our own. We're the only country in the world that gives high positions in government, civil service and parliament to foreigners who in reality shouldn't even have the right to vote in the UK. We amend the pensions of mercenaries who get paid for serving in the armed forces and now tell them to come over and bring all their clan with them so they can claim additional benefits which our own soldiers can't. We are the only country in the world with a religion which is dictated to from the monarchy and the government and which shows the world just how far we have come from normal Christian values to pander to so-called ethnic minorities and the challenged in every field. We are, however, not the only country in the world, but one of the European ones, who abides by the diktats of a foreign country, in whom we have to take in how we treat them and still have to keep adhering to these policies when we are all clearly overrun and sick and tired of the sight, smell and sound of foreigners in our towns and cities. These gangs in Calais are just the beginning of the rot and the destruction of the myth of peaceful, liberal and diverse society existing in this country. People are people and destruction runs hand in hand with them and often with the beliefs. We will beggar our country trying to accommodate all these strangers. Our health service is already under threat in heavily enriched areas. Our schools might as well be madrasas as might our universities be Marxist. This is not a British or English society or people anymore. We are the diverse now. The reality has overtaken and crushed the myth. And now a 2 for 1 day Wednesday. Warning: when you drink vodka over ice, it can give you kidney failure. When you drink rum over ice, it can give you liver failure. When you drink whiskey over ice, it can give you heart problems. When you drink gin over ice, it can give you brain problems. Apparently, ice is really bad for you. Warn all your friends. And now, in case you've been waiting breathlessly for this year's Darwin Awards, they're given each year to bestow upon the remains or estate of, in most cases, that individual who through single-minded self-sacrifice has done the most to remove undesirable elements from the human gene pool. Just think, until these events occurred, these same people were walking the streets just like normal people. 6th place goes to a San Anselmo, California man who died when he hit a lift tower at the Mammoth Mountain ski area while riding down the slope on a foam pad. 22-year-old David Hubel was pronounced dead at Central Mammoth Hospital. The accident occurred about 3 a.m, the Mono County Sheriff's Department said. Hubel and his friends apparently had hiked up the ski run, called Stump Alley, and removed some yellow foam protectors from lift towers. said Lieutenant Mike Donnelly of the Mammoth Lakes Police Department. The pads are used to protect skiers who might hit towers. The group apparently used the pads to slide down the ski slope and Hubble crashed into a tower. It has since been investigated and determined the tower he hit was the one with its pad removed. Fifth place goes to Robert Puello, 32, was apparently being disorderly in a St. Louis market. When the clerk threatened to call the police, Puello grabbed a hot dog, shoved it into his mouth and walked out without paying. Police found him unconscious in front of the store. Paramedics removed the 6-inch wiener from his throat where it had choked him to death. Fourth place goes to poacher Marino Malherbe of Spain, who shot a stag standing above him on an overhanging rock and was killed instantly when it fell on him. Third place. Man loses face at party. A man at a West Virginia party, probably related to the winner last year, a man in Arkansas who used the .22 bullet to replace the fuse in his pickup truck, popped a blasting cap into his mouth and bit down, triggering an explosion that blew off his lips, teeth and tongue. Jerry Strohmeyer, 24 of Kincaid, bit the blasting cap as a prank during the party late Tuesday night, said MD Payne. Another man had a blasting cap in an aquarium hooked to a battery and was trying to explode it. It wouldn't go off and the guy said, "I'll show you how to set it off." He put it in his mouth, bit down and it blew all his teeth out and his lips and tongue off. Payne said Strohmeyer was listed in guarded condition Wednesday with extensive facial injuries, according to a spokesperson at Charleston Area Medical Division. "I just can't imagine anyone doing something like that," Payne said. Note, maybe that's why they call these the Darwin Awards. Second place. Doctors at Portland University Hospital said an Oregon man shot through the skull by a hunting arrow is lucky to be alive and will be released soon from hospital. Tony Roberts, 25, lost his right eye last weekend during initiation into a men's rafting club, Mountain Men Anonymous, probably known now as Stupid Mountain Men Anonymous, in Grants Pass, Oregon. A friend tried to shoot a bear can off his head, but the arrow entered Roberts' right eye. Doctors said the arrow had gone 1 millimetre to the left, a major blood vessel would have been cut and Roberts would have died instantly. Neurosurgeon Dr. John Delashaw at the University Hospital in Portland said the arrow went through 8 to 10 inches of brain with the tip protruding at the rear of his skull, yet somehow managed to miss all the major blood vessels. Delashaw also said that had Roberts tried to pull the arrow out on his own, he would have surely killed himself. Roberts admitted afterwards that he and his friends had been drinking that afternoon. Said Roberts, "I feel so dumb about this." This year's winner, John Pernicki and his friend Sal Hawkins of the great state of Washington, decided to attend a local Metallica concert at the George Washington Amphitheatre. Having no tickets but having had 18 beers between them, they thought it would be easy to hop over the 9-foot fence and sneak into the show. They pulled their pickup truck over to the fence and the plan was for Mr. Pernicki, who was 100 pounds heavier than Mr. Hawkins, to hop the fence and then assist his friend over. Unfortunately for the late Mr. Pernicki, there was a 30-foot drop on the other side of the fence. Having heaved himself over, he found himself crashing through a tree. His fall was abruptly halted and broken along with his arm by a large branch that snagged him by his shorts. Dangling from the tree with a broken arm, he looked down and saw some bushes below him. Possibly figuring the bushes would break his fall, he removed his pocket knife and proceeded to cut away his shorts to free himself from the tree. Finally free, Mr. Pernicki crashed into holly bushes. The sharp leaves scratched his entire body and now, without the protection of his shorts, a holly branch penetrated his rectum. To make matters worse, upon landing his pocket knife penetrated his thigh. Hawkins, seeing his friend in considerable pain and agony, threw him a rope and tried to pull him to safety by tying the rope to the pickup truck and slowly driving away. However, in his drunken haste, he put the truck into reverse and crashed through the fence, landing on his friend and killing him. Police arrived to find the crash pickup with its driver thrown 100 feet from the truck and dead at the scene from massive internal injuries. Upon moving the truck, they found John deceased under its half-naked, scratches on his body, a holly stick in his rectum, a knife in his thigh and his shorts dangling from a tree branch 25 feet in the air. Congratulations, gentlemen, you win. 5 more idiots have been removed from the gene pool and we are richer because of your supreme sacrifice. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynne Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.